listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club, and you're most welcome.
Hello, my name's Paul Carmichael.
And I'm Alan Lear.
And I'm Les Dennis, and sorry guys, but I'm here to put a compulsory purchase order on the shed. I want the shed. You can't have it anymore. I'm taking it away.
Les Dennis, how dare you try and take our presidential shed away? How much do you think this is worth?
Sorry, it's so important to me. I think the shed looks amazing and I want it. I'm taking it off you. Because I need a shed. I haven't got a shed.
What kind of man doesn't have a shed?
Well, I mean, understandable. Everybody needs a shed.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody needs a shed, and I need a shed. And I had a mate called Two Sheds Arch at school, and I was jealous of him. So we called him Two Sheds. So I've always wanted a shed, and I want yours. Yours, it just looks the best, the business.
Well, can we at least clear all of our gubbins out of it first?
You can do that, because I don't want all that stuff. Just take it out and leave me the shed empty.
Okay, I'll take the stuffed alligator.
Well, Les, can I make a suggestion, Les? Why don't we just go into the shed here? Because obviously, when people get into the shed, the presidential shed, they are normally quite impressed. And there is a certain argument to say that maybe this is a national monument. In fact, Les, can I draw your attention to this? What might look like a very tatty bingo machine in the corner.
Right. Yes, that's amazing. I love those old school bingo machines. That's so good. Can you give it a little 12 for me so I can see the balls moving?
Well, Les, there's an idea. I think possibly we can win you over and show you how important this shed is, and all we're going to do is give the balls a bit of a whirl.
Okay, there you go.
Tony's enchanted bingo machine. A curious contraption of cogs, levers, and glowing buttons that hums with ominous energy. This machine generates 3 completely random numbers. These numbers are fed directly into the Dewey Decimal System, the arcane reference system by which books and their contents are categorized. In this way, the bingo machine conjures from thin air a topic of conversation so enthralling, so wildly unexpected, that it leaves the members of the Rambling Club both bewildered and vaguely excited. And thus, another evening is saved from the brink of boredom, thanks to Tony's marvellous, possibly haunted and entirely inexplicable bingo machine.
Well, Les, here we are, transported as if by magic, which it very well may be, to the great outdoors, and the first numbers chosen by the bingo machine for us are
1, 3, 0.
130, 130, and that means the first subject for us to ramble about, Les, is paranormal phenomena.
Ooh, paranormal phenomena.
Paranormal phenomena. Yeah. Have you had any experience with the paranormal?
I never have. I worked on a play with Danny Robbins, and I find his uncanny shows really spooky and lovely to watch. But I don't think I've ever experienced anything paranormal. I used to talk to him and say, no, don't believe it. Don't never seen anything. Never had any experience. Been in hotel rooms that, could be spooky, but never felt anything. Don't mind sleeping in the dark. I'm not scared of the dark at all. Don't believe it exists. But then I read something like The Omen and get scared.
That's strange, isn't it? Because I would have thought working in theatres so much, because there's always legends in theatres, aren't there? And there's always that one seat that tips down by itself. Yeah. But nothing like that at all.
No, I've been in theatres where they say there is a theatre ghost, and I've wanted to see the ghost. I would love to see a ghost, and it never has happened. So, bring it on. I'd love to have that happen one day.
I think that's actually, people don't often say, I'd love to see a ghost. They often think of it as quite a scary thing. But actually, there could be a real comfort in it. It's proof of life persisting after death.
Yeah, my parents died kind of when I was in my 20s, and I would love to see them at the end of my bed. I would love to have that experience of them coming back and being able to tell me how proud they might be of what I've done, and I can just tell them how much I've missed them. I would love that, but it's never. I don't think it's likely to ever happen. I'm 72 now, so there you go. It's not going to happen now.
Well, I suppose we could take this wider, actually, couldn't we? Because if you're going to talk about paranormal phenomena, then obviously the first thing you think of is ghosts, but then we can go further, can't we? I mean, UFOs, for example, the idea of alien life, and that's something which I've heard described as that's just a mathematical certainty, or, that the idea that there isn't life elsewhere is almost ludicrous. But I don't know if that means they've visited.
I think whether they're visited or not, we would be so arrogant to think that there isn't life on other planets. Absolutely. And I would be fascinated by that. I believe in that more than I believe in ghosts.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the size of the universe, we know.
Yeah.
It's a mathematical certainty. There must be life out there somewhere. The question is whether there's any... Because I think we've said this previously, but because we've had radio technology for about 150 years. So that's the distance outside our planet where other life forms could potentially know that we existed. Anything beyond that, there's no way they would know we were here. So it's not that there's no life out there, it's just the odds of it actually being that close to us are very, very small. But you're right, to suggest that we might possibly be the only life form in the universe would just be hubris of the most immense kind.
Yeah, I mean, if we're traveling into space and we are exploring, surely they are exploring, and they probably have visited.
It's possible.
So, I mean, there is one thing that I've found interesting, and it's something that my wife was talking to me about earlier this week, and it's that idea of panic. And she was describing what panic was. And it's that sensation that you can just get, if you're just outdoors in a field or something like that. And for some reason, you suddenly feel slightly uneasy. Lots of writers write about this sort of thing, Alan Garner and that sort of thing. And people used to say what that was you would be walking through a field and then you would disturb Pan. Because Pan used to sleep in the fields and it was disturbing Pan, and that was where panic came from.
That's the etymology.
That's fascinating. That's where it comes from, the word panic.
Isn't it? And I suppose there is a sort of thing. Do you ever get that, which I do sometimes, when you are in a wide open landscape, but there is, I don't know, almost an oppression caused by it, making you feel just how small you are almost, I suppose.
I think absolutely that. But I think, we are all suffering with high anxiety now. As Mel Brooks called it, high anxiety. And, I think we feel that all the time now, You can be sitting in your car and kind of thinking, what's going on? We listen to so much stuff on the news that we go, what is happening in the world, that we feel this anxiety all the time. So if you're in a field and you felt that, you wouldn't necessarily think, is there something out there? You just think, what is going on in here? I think it's becoming internalized, a lot of our panic.
And there's that sort of weird cultural, thinking about aliens and panic, that sort of thing. There's that kind of weird cultural phenomenon where for hundreds of years, if you had a weird experience, it was ghosts or demons. And now, if you have a weird experience, it's the aliens that have done it. And it's because we have the same emotions, but the cultural reference has shifted, so the explanation is different. But I think you're right, Les. I think it's all kind of externalizing what's actually just an anxiety state or a panic state that we're in because we live in this. And the pandemic obviously has just accelerated that feeling for people that basically everything is out of control.
Is that why that's called pandemic? Is that to do with pan again?
Well, it'll have the same origin, I imagine. I think the word will ultimately lead back, won't it?
Well, I mean, obviously that's pan is from, is it the Greek or the Latin pan meaning all? So
Yeah.
it's called a pandemic because it's everywhere. In the same way that, but this is what I thought of when you mentioned pan and panic is what's the epic poem Paradise Lost? Milton calls the city of demons Pandemonium.
Yes.
Because it's where all the demons live. Yeah, and that we use the word pandemonium now to mean chaos and uproar. But yeah, so I think Pan would, because Pan was a nature spirit, he was everywhere, and that's why he's called Pan. And so it all comes from the same root originally.
Yeah, it does. Blimey. Well, Les, then, in that case, because you've been making people laugh for decades.
I thought you were going to say making people panic.
Well, what's drama?
Now, I can remember, I have a memory of you. Oh, I don't know what the show was, but I do recall the ATV logo at the beginning, and I was round at my nan's having thick ham butties. I remember that. But what do you, as an entertainer, what's your role now? Is it to actually distract us from all that crap that's going on? And is it possible to do that still? Because it's so, it's everywhere. It's omnipresent. Isn't it?
I think my role is to distract myself from all the stuff that's going on around. I've got to the stage now where I say I said 72. That's coming this year. I've got to the stage now where I feel like I've done so many things, but I still want to do so many other things that if I stay in this business, I want to be able to do things that scare me, that panic me, that take me outside of my comfort zone, and hopefully, if people like those things, then it's something that works both ways. I did my first Shakespeare last year, and I was panicked beyond. I think I had more panic in that theatre to begin with than I would have done in a field meeting Pam.
I do love a Shakespeare. What was the Shakespeare you did?
I did 12th night at the Shakespeare North Playhouse and played Malvolio. So
nice.
It was wonderful to do, and again outside, something that I had seen when I was 17. I'd gone with the school to Stratford and had seen a production and loved it and thought I want to act, but I'd already started down the working men's clubs route, so it was something I always intended to get back to. And I got to play Malvolio, which was wonderful. And I Googled, I thought, who did I see when I was 17? And it was Donald Sinden, and it was playing viola, it was Judi Dench in the wonderful John Barton production. So,
wow.
So no wonder I was amazed and wanted to get back to it. And it took me it took me from 17 to 70 to get back to it.
Well, you're a local lad. Did you ever see Ken? Did you ever see Ken Dodd play Malvolio?
No, I didn't, because I think that was that same year. It was about 1971 that he did it. As it happens, the Shakespeare North Playhouse has a Doddy Garden and is funded by Lady Dodd. So it felt like, and she said, she came to see it and said, Doddy, Ken would have been thrilled with your Malvolio. And I got to know Doddy, so it was lovely to have that experience. But as the question you were asking was, what is my job? My job is to do whatever I can in this business, and I think it's testament to what you're doing here in lovely Tony's memory that he managed to do so much. I was such a fan.
Well, here we are, location number 2 and subject number 2. The numbers selected by the machine are
7, 5, 7.
757. And the subject is... And I'm not quite sure how we take this. Human figures, that's fine, and their parts.
Oh.
Human figures and their parts.
Human figures and their parts.
Where do we start on that?
Well, I used to work with a director doing Shakespeare, having you talked about Twelfth Night there, and I did about 4 or 5 different plays for him, and somehow he found an excuse, and I think it was just because he found my discomfort funny. Every play that I did with him, there was a point where I would have to take my trousers off on stage, and it didn't matter what the play. I had to do it in Midsummer Night's Dream, and I had to do it in King Lear. I also even ended up doing it in Hamlet, even though I was playing Polonius. So that was quite exposing, really. And I mean, certainly my own figure is something that I'm not that confident about, never mind my parts. But I don't know, have anyone ever had that thing of having to feel their own figure is exposed and going, oh Christ, this is horrific, actually?
I've done some farce, and farce, it's usually that you do take your trousers off. In fact, I heard Stephen reading a story the other day on Radio 4, and the play that he was about to direct and write was Vicar, where's my trousers? Oh, hey Vicar, where's my trousers? It was the performer, I think, on Radio 4. I loved it. So I think in farce you're expected at some point to lose your trousers. But it's certainly the one time where I have exposed my body was on Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant's Extras, of course. So there was a lot of that. There was one big scene where when they pitched it to me, they said, "Would you like to come and play a twisted, demented version of yourself in our new show?" Which was very attractive. And I thought, really? Explain more. And they said, think Larry Sanders, think Curb Your Enthusiasm. Being a fan of those shows, I thought, yeah, I see what you're doing here. We're going to lampoon people who are well known are going to lampoon themselves. So I was all up for it, and he said, by the way, there's an arse shot. I went, okay, and then we filmed that scene in Wimbledon Theatre where I had to come out the shower and dry myself in front of him while he, in a very embarrassed way, turns to the light switch and messes about and goes, "Oh, what's that?" It was great fun to do, but we couldn't get through it with us. I mean, Ricky is a laugher anyway. He's one of those people who giggles, and I don't know how many takes we did, especially when I was exposed. I wasn't exposed. I had, as he called it, a cricket box to save him from Les's offal. So, that is my one experience of getting my parts out on stage. I remember going to see Funny Peculiar was an early play. I'm not thinking of that. What was the play? It was a Terry Johnson play about comedy, and it was David Haig was naked in the first act on stage. I mean, that must be so hard to do, to kind of perform a play. It was all about Benny Hill and Frankie Howard's deaths, I remember, as a subplot.
Oh yeah, because didn't they both die on the same day?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've died over the same week. Yeah.
So I think if I remember correctly, Benny Hill's agent found him because he wasn't responding to requests to comment on Frankie Howard's death. And his agent went to check on him and found he was dead as well.
That's right. Absolutely. And Terry wrote a play about it. And I actually met Benny Hill 3 days before. He came to see Me and My Girl. I was in Me and My Girl, and Louise English, who was playing my Sally, was one of Hill's angels. So he came along and we had a photo after, and I met Benny, and then he took Louise for tea between shows. And so that was my connection to that incident.
Wow. What sort of a person was Benny Hill? Because obviously these days, I mean, the chances that we'll see repeats of the shows are very unlikely, and I think that's such a shame, because it is removing that cheeky sort of 70s seaside humor, which is such a part of our spirit.
McGill's Postcard.
Yeah,
absolutely. I went to there was a memorial service at the Actors Church, and Anthony Burgess read his eulogy.
Wow.
So you can't take that lightly. And he said he was much maligned, and that if you look at Benny Hill, he didn't chase the girls. The girls chased him in those sketches, in those kind of very Keystone Cops kind of as you say, McGill's postcard type routines. And he was a funny man. He was definitely a funny man, but we probably won't see as much of him as we'd like. And I think it is a shame that we lose, so many trigger warnings and things whenever Fools and Horses or Till Death Us Do Part are shown on television now, we get the warnings about inappropriate language for now, but they are shows that were up their time but are classics.
Oh, do they broadcast only Fools and Horses with a trigger warning?
They do.
I think they do, yeah.
Warning, Roger Lloyd Pack.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a trigger warning. I got it. Just got it.
Yeah, it's a really strange thing at the moment, isn't it? That idea of just warning you might be offended.
Yeah.
Because obviously all you're going to do then is attract people who want to be offended.
Absolutely.
And I've noticed, though, of course, that they have repeated Till Death Us Do Part quite recently. It's been shown. And of course, because nobody noticed it was on, nobody complained. Yeah. But then a month after, somebody wrote something reviewing it, even though it had finished. And then people started complaining, even though the run had finished a month earlier.
About the review?
Complaining that it had been shown, which is such a strange thing, especially for a show like that.
And we all knew when we watched it in the 60s, we knew that Alf Garnett was a bigot. And that was the whole idea, because Anthony Booth's character and what was her name? The lovely
Una Stubbs.
Una Stubbs. They were there to defend and to kind of to absolutely say, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. So I think the show stands up as a classic look at a bigotry at that time.
Well, Warren Mitchell was Jewish, wasn't he? He was very clear that Alf Garnett was the butt of the joke.
Yes.
He was the one who was wrong every single time. That was the point.
Yes. Absolutely that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big socialist, Warren Mitchell. And also, of course, he worked with Dandy Nichols, who I think, for me, Dandy Nichols is the star of the show. There's a brilliant episode because she was always looking for business to do. And there's a wonderful one where she's got a matchbox and she's just prodding into the matchbox with a needle for ages. And eventually Alf comes over and he goes, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "It's me bees." And she's just sat there annoying bees, which is just such a bizarre thing to do.
It is.
But she came from that background of working with Joan Littlewood on plays like Oh, What a Lovely War. So all of these people were sort of, they wouldn't have been in a far-right sitcom because politically they just weren't there at all. So it's a strange thing. So we're judging things terribly, I think, and forgetting that the context of the time is so important.
But it's like the Brass Eye special, isn't it? People complain about these things sight unseen because they've been told to complain about them. Was it? Who was that blind idiot in the Labour Party?
David Blunkett.
Blunkett, that's it. David Blunkett complained about the Brass Eye special, and he'd never watched it.
Really?
He just heard people were complaining about it, and he thought it would be popular to complain about it. People complain about comedy sight unseen. Yeah.
But expect more of David Blunkett, wouldn't you, with that, really?
Well, he was Home Secretary at the time. You would hope he'd be above such.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there we go.
Anyway, we should just say human figures on their parts, just to try and drag ourselves back to that. Artistically, of course, the nude has been sort of like shown through our history. But then, again, we're probably going towards censorship again with that. Tony used to get quite irate about how penises were taken off the statues at Pompeii and things like that by Victorians, I remember.
Do you think we'll get to that point now where old masters will be cancelled?
Do you know what? I do worry, and we've touched on this before, because these days you've got films that only appear on streaming services, and then one day they're gone. And you can't buy a physical copy of them. And I do worry about things being lost. All you have to do is delete a file now, and you can delete a movie. It's not so easy when it's on film, I suppose.
No, exactly. Absolutely. We'd have a hard time with Ken Russell's work, wouldn't we, right now? You know, Savage Messiah and all those
Yeah.
Women in Love.
Trying to get The Devils a cinema release now or something. Is there any of Les? Is there any of your work which you think, if that was to be shown now, people would probably raise an eyebrow? Or are you? Because I can't think of anything I've seen you do going right back to, you know, when you were working. Oh God, the Russ Abbott show, which was wonderful. So, was there anything that you could think of where you'd think, oh, that could be problematic now? Or are you fine?
Well, I was looking back at some of the stuff that I did with Dustin G, and we were never ever. We were always kind of aware of things we shouldn't do. But there was a sketch and EastEnders sketch, and he's blacked up, and it was of its time, but and a lot of other people did it. But it's looking at it, you cringe. You know, you think why did we do that? But then we didn't know. You know,
there was a period when very legitimate actors would do blacking up to play. Laurence Olivier blacked up to play Othello. You know, there was a period when it just wasn't recognised how offensive it was. You know, because presumably because black voices were so sidelined at the time that nobody was listening to a word they said. You know, but yeah, as you say, you know, you learn, you listen to people you know better in future.
You do,
you?
absolutely.
It's good that we've made progress.
Yeah, and then you look at somebody like Robert Downey Jr. blacking up quite recently in what's the movie?
Tropic
Thunder. Yeah, and it's funny, you know, kind of what is appropriate and it's of its time. Like we're talking about Till Death Us Depart, and you know, that was of its time. But I think, yeah, you know, I look back at things, and there was a sketch I think with Russ Abbott, and we did the Four Bottoms instead of the Four Tops, and we were all blacked out singing, you know, a spoof of a Four Tops song.
Well, there was an incident in 1996 that's been doing the rounds on social media recently. South Yorkshire Police did an identity parade for a black suspect. And the identity parade was the suspect and 8 white men that the police blacked up.
What?
What? In 1996? What on, you know... compared to that, I think the Russ Abbott seems fairly harmless, to be honest.
Well, here we are, third location and our third ramble. So what has the machine got for us this time? The numbers are...
7, 9, 7.
797, and that means our final subject is... aquatic and air sport.
What is... Oh, air sport.
Right.
I thought you meant...
An air sport. I mean, I'm not keen on swimming and I don't like flying. Anyone anything to add?
Well, my dad was a champion swimmer, you know, and I've still got his medals and his certificates. He also played for Liverpool Football Club, which I've got his contracts for.
Wow.
But I was very proud of my dad having been such a good swimmer. But I never, ever saw him swim. And, you know, we swam, and he encouraged us to swim, and he got me better. But I never saw him swim until one day we went to Butlins holiday camp, and the outdoor swimming pool, we said, we don't believe you, Dad. They're not your contracts. They're not your medals. Show us. And he just, for the one time I ever saw him, he swam a whole length faster than I could even see. He streaked across the pool, got out, and said, "I'm never doing that again." So that's my link to. I was an okay swimmer, but it was my dad that was the swimmer in our family.
Do you know why he decided he didn't want to do it again? Was there a reason that he stopped, or do you not know?
outside pool in the 60s in at Butlin. So it was a it was like
Freezing.
it was the coldest pool you've ever been in, and you got out and went, never bloody doing that again. That was my dad. And again with football, he came and played with us on the backfields, and so I saw his skills for a few times that he came and played with us. But he was a quiet man and didn't pose about the things he was good at.
Quite a humble man. That seems to be a thing of that generation, doesn't it? I mean, I'm assuming he would have been born sort of just before World War II, and there does seem to be a real humility with such people. You don't shout about it,
Yeah, he was born in 1916, so during the First World War.
Nice.
But later in life, somebody gave me this wonderful book called Swimming for Schoolboys. And it was a tiny little booklet, and my dad was the model for all my dad was there as a little boy doing all the dives and showing how to enter the pool. And they were, and I've got it now, Swimming for Schoolboys, and it's a treasured memory of him as a young man.
Wow, that's lovely. That's lovely.
I wonder how many people learned to swim as a result of your dad being in that.
Yeah, who
book.
knows?
Well, that's yeah, good. Lives have been saved because your dad posed the photographs and people learned how to swim. It's the ripple effect people have that you never think of, isn't it? It's remarkable.
The ripple effect, literally.
Yeah. Literally the ripple effect. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, we used to have a chap around here who used to teach the kids to cycle. And he'd appear at the school every year, same time, and teach all the kids en masse how to cycle. But then he died, and then all of a sudden, there's the reason why my eldest can ride a bike no problem at all, but then my youngest has never quite learned it. These people who do these little things, but they can have a huge effect.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Absolutely. And as far as air is concerned, I've never been. I never wanted to fly. I used to be frightened of flying until when we first fly, as a passenger, we're not used to the noises and we're terrified by everything. And it's only as we get used to frequent flying that we get a bit calmer about it. I remember once, the day of the storms, I had to in '87. Had to fly back from Aviemore in Scotland, and it was with private pilots, and it was a 4-seater plane flying through those storms, and amazingly, we got back to Heathrow because I had an onward flight to do a gig in Spain, I think, and we had to fly that day. And looking back, we shouldn't have done it. We shouldn't have flown. It was terrifying. But having said that, they said, "Do you want to have a go, Les? Do you want to sit in the driving seat?" And my friend and road manager Roger was asleep, and he woke up and saw me sitting. He said he still has nightmares. He woke up and saw that I was flying the plane.
Oh, God, no, because those storms were bad. What wasn't that the storm where Gordon Kay got injured? Do you remember? Was it an advertising billboard?
Oh, didn't he get the hoarding? And that's why he had that scar on his forehead.
Yeah, I think that was that storm. That was close.
Yeah, he was a lovely man, Gordon Kay. Yeah.
Did you work with Gordon?
I knew Gordon because when we were doing the Laughter Show, me and Dustin, at the BBC, they were always doing Hello Hello in the next studio, and I remember he always said when he went to the canteen, it was comedy egg and chips. That's what you had in the canteen before you went to record, comedy egg and chips. So whenever I have comedy egg and chips, I think of Gordon. But he was a nice man, and he came on to. I did a sketch where I did his character in Hello Hello, and he came on at the end of the sketch, which was really lovely. You'd get trigger warnings for that now, wouldn't you? Hello Hello.
People say that. I think Hello Hello's saving grace is that everybody are cretins in it.
Yeah.
You know, the French are treated like cretins, the Germans, but the English
Yeah,
are just as
yeah.
stupid as anybody else. I think its saving grace is there's no sense of superiority to it at all.
It's lovely, isn't it, that a lower low has sold incredibly well across the entire of Europe. I think every single European country has taken it, which I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yes, it is, and it was great. Farce. I got the chance to work with David Croft. I did his last pilot, which was just me and Wendy Richards. It never got released because people at that time said it's had its day, it's gone. But it was lovely to do. Me and Wendy Richards played brother and sister in a thing called Here Comes the Queen, and she became queen of a principality, a foreign principality, and we went over and became these king and queen. We worked with Bert Kwok, Ian Lavender, Philip Maddock, the lovely Philip Maddock, who was, who did the
Wow.
What Is Your Name? Pike.
Yeah, the Submariner captain in God's Army. Yeah.
And it was just a joyous thing to do, and I got to do a show that you have been watching, titles at the end, and be part of it. Well, nobody saw it, but it was a lovely show.
I feel that I'm going to have to try and find that somehow. That sounds wonderful. Wendy Richards and yourself.
If it's in the archives anywhere, yeah.
Yeah, it might be.
Oh, wow. So, here we are back in the shed. So, Les, the big question is, you came here with ideas of a compulsory purchase order. How are you feeling about us now?
I'm sorry that I did that, and I will buy you another shed to go with your shed that I can come and visit, whenever I like. How about that? Two shed, you can become...
That sounds marvellous. We'll knock through. We'll have a little serving hatch between the two. Yeah.
That would be lovely.
Oh, Les, you will be more than welcome at any point. And obviously, the president, as we are aware, President Tony Slattery, isn't with us at the moment. He headed out to go to the lavatories some time ago, and we haven't seen him back as of yet. But Tony Slattery got because you almost our dates couldn't quite match, and we couldn't get you on the podcast sooner, which is such a shame. But Tony, when you think of Tony, go on. What do you think of without Tone?
Oh, I think he was the most wonderfully talented and exceptionally beautiful man. He looked like Cary Grant. The first time I saw him was in Me and My Girl on stage. I saw him play Gerald in Me and My Girl in the original cast, that when Robert Lindsay and Emma Thompson were in that show. I thought, I watched him and thought, you are amazing. I loved him on Whose Line Is It Anyway? I loved him, of course, in Peter's Friends. He was so vulnerable and, so important in that film. And I got to meet him twice. I got to meet him. First time I went to see Radio Times that he was in. I was a friend of Ian Bartholomew who was in it with him. And I must have gone, because I was in, it must have been 10 years after Me and My Girl opened, and I was in Me and My Girl at the time. So I went, our matinees must have been different. I went to see him in a matinee and went back to see Ian, and Tony came in and spent a lovely half an hour, and I just warmed to him straight away. And then the next time, and the only other time I met him, was I was the last Bill Snibson in Me and My Girl. And on the last night, it was probably as big as the opening night all those 10 years ago, because everybody came. Stephen Fry came and did a massive speech at the end, which was amazing. And all the, Rowan Atkinson and all the people that I revered from the other world of comedy, because I'm from the old school kind of variety side, were there, in their droves. And at the end of the show, there was a party, and I remember the first person that handed me a drink, a glass of champagne, was Tony. And it was, and I just thought, I felt a connection to him. And then, on social media, got to connect with him, and thought, we're becoming friends here in a kind of that social media way. And then was always wanting to come and do this, and I'm here while he's out of the shed, while he's gone to the toilet.
Typical. Perfect timing as usual from the president. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, well, Les, really, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you come for a ramble with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
It's been lovely. It's such a lovely show to do. Thank you.
And obviously, thank you for listening, and we hope that you've enjoyed this week's meeting of the Rambling Club.
The club meets every Friday, but if you'd like to get in touch in the meantime, here's how you can find your fellow members.
So the show's official website is at www.tonyslattery.com, and you can get in touch with us on the contact form on that website.
We are still on Twitter at Slattery Live. Please use the hashtag TSRC to discuss the week's topics.
We're also on Blue Sky as well, at Slattery Live there. I'm on Twitter at Paul Carmichael V, and I'm on Blue Sky as well. And Les, you're on Twitter, aren't you? What's your handle on that?
What is it? It's just Les Dennis.
Les Dennis, at Les Dennis. So have a look for Les there on Twitter.
There's a Facebook group, which is www.facebook.com/groups/the-Tony-Slattery.
And there's even an Instagram, which is at Tony_Slattery_official.
But never mind all that. Paul, if people want to join the Rambling Club for themselves, how do they do that?
Well, what you do is you head over to www.patreon.com/Slattery Live, and we will be delighted to welcome you. You can find some lovely perks there for members. You can find all sorts of archive bits and pieces from our lovely Tony and things that are coming up. There's loads of things. Go and have a look. Patreon.com/Slattery Live.
Yeah, please do get in touch with us by any of those methods. We would be thrilled to hear from you.
And we'll be back again next Friday with another ramble, and we hope that you'll join us as well. But Les, in the meantime, thank you so much for joining.
I loved it, and I certainly did ramble, but I hope it makes some kind of sense. We went all over the...
Oh, that's the joy of it. That's the joy of it.
We travelled everywhere.
So, in the meantime, it's a goodbye from me, Paul Carmichael. It's a goodbye from Mr. Alan Lear.
Goodbye to you.
And it's a goodbye from our very special guest and our honorary president for this week, Mr. Les Dennis.
Thank you so much, guys. Loved it.
You have been listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club with our special guest president, Les Dennis. It was accompanied by Stephen Fry as the voice of the bingo machine. President Dennis was assisted by Paul Carmichael and Alan Lear. The music was composed and performed by Michael Lavsley and Andy Frizzle. Silly voices are by Michael Lavsley, and the show's concept is by Paul Carmichael. Our producers are Stuart Morris and Alan Dybing, and the show's series producer is Erica Lear. Our executive producer is Chris Castle, and the series executive producer is Mark Strickson. Tony Slattery's Rambling Club is a Fanfanidal production.
Goodbye, and thank you for listening.